Welcome, guys, to the Infinite Creative Podcast. My name is Fitz, and this is
Sean. I'm glad to see you guys.
Glad to see you guys too. This is a podcast about creatives and just being a freelancer in this weird world that we live in. And today, this episode is kind of all about me, not really. It's more about like 3D printing, ideas, when is it okay to steal or modify an idea. Then also Sean came up with a topic that is a bank that gives creative loans, I would say. Or is that a good description for that?
Yeah, I would say it's like a new type of bank that they've just announced somewhere, I think in New York. So we'll talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, and also, obviously, if you follow the show, you maybe noticed like we were kind of slacking, but not slacking. We were posting like in Germany a podcast, and the plan was the next week Italy make the Italia podcast. Mm-hmm. Well, obviously there was bad internet, and even though I stayed at a 5-star resort, terrible internet, so it didn't happen. So we're very sorry, but we love you guys. So stay tuned for this one and the next one.
Exactly.
Yeah, Sean. I would say we will start with you now. I talked a lot.
Yeah? You did just talk a little bit. Yeah. Well, first, let's go ahead. Let's get these things out of the way. If you haven't already liked and subscribed to this podcast, you need to do that right now. If you want to talk to me, Sean Craig Creative, I'm on Instagram. I got the hello@SeanCraigCreative email. You can get a hold of me there. You got Fitz over there. I think it's FITZ
AEY.
AEY. So go to Instagram, follow this guy. He's a crazy, industrious videographer, 3D guy, which you'll talk about a little bit today. So, but yeah, we need your likes. We need your subscriptions. Tell the good people that it's a good podcast. And let's go ahead and get into it, I guess. So,
let's start with yours, because I have a lot going on.
Okay, yours may be a lot. We can talk with mine. So like one interesting thing that I was reading up on. Go ahead and share my. Oh my god, I gotta hide some stuff if I'm going to do this.
We know how it is.
Everyone knows how this goes. So I was, I think you guys can see this. So I was reading this story about this like bank that just opened up. So, and it's launched this bank of creativity. Now I think this is kind of more of a promotional stunt. I don't think this is like really a real bank. It's by Herschel Supply, which is it's like an arts company. But what I like about this that they were talking about is that what they're trying to do is they're trying to create a place where you would maybe, I don't know if you're investing or anything, but that you're getting mentorship and you're getting access to tools. So it's almost like this kind of community space I think they're choosing these artists, and then they're kind of bringing these new artists up and they're giving them advice, they're giving them different supplies. And so I just thought it was an interesting new thing, and I don't know, I'd like to see things like this pop up where you have people that you have these places that somehow, if you can find a way for businesses to like maybe invest in places like this, it would be cool to have these kind of places for artists and for creatives, especially up and coming ones in poor areas of town, to get the stuff that they need and get the mentorship they need. If you really think about it, there's nowhere really in a city that you can go to for that right now, right? Like you have to go to art school, or you have to maybe be part of a networking group and hopefully kind of build that on your own. But like having a space within a city that's literally only dedicated to helping you get supplies and helping you get mentorship, I just thought, I don't know, is an interesting thing. I think it was an interesting, different concept. And it'd be cool to see that type of thing to come around. So I guess, what's your thoughts on that? Could you see something like this pop up more? Do you think you could see businesses start to offer this?
I'm just like a little bit confused, because like they are kind of phrasing it as like a bank, loaning materials and mentorship. I kind of see like a co-working space in that. You know what I mean? A co-working space or a maker space, because like in the end, like all those are kind of, otherwise it's just like a big company that's just like looking for like, hey, this is somebody that we want to hire kind of sort of situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think, well, what's interesting about co-working space is, like, as you know, you have to pay like a membership for the co-working space. And then, and it's in this case, it almost seems like this is almost like a free service. And I don't know, I could see businesses that need creatives. It would be really interesting if, like, I don't know, let's say, I don't know, Pepsi or Coca-Cola, let's say they want to, they really need to get more creatives. They want to get more young creatives, having something like this where it's sponsored by a huge company that has billions of dollars to throw away anyway. But if they created these kind of incubators, they could get a lot of talent off the streets. You know what I mean? So it's, so it's really interesting. I don't know. It's an interesting concept.
Yeah, I really like the concept. I'm just like, like when I see like those images and everything, it looks really high class. So it's like, if I would be like, I don't know, like, let's say I live in the ghetto or in the projects, however you want to call it, and there's like that bougie place with all that stuff. Would I feel comfortable walking in? You know what I mean? It's already like too polished from the images, but I like the concept and the idea, but I'm like, I think it will become very quickly stale, if that makes sense. But I'm not sure.
So? Yeah,
because like you have like the people who are already doing everything, and they are mentoring you. And it's basically like, oh, I don't approve of this, but it's art. So how can you approve and disapprove? You know what I mean? If they just throw away money and be like, hey, do your thing, we love it, be creative, then it's a good thing. But if it's like, hey, we kind of want to mold you in this way because of the mentorship, then I'm like, is it not just like one person getting like free labor and just like, spreading himself all over the creatives?
Well, I think you bring up a good point, right? And I'm not sure about if this is what's happening here, but it could be manipulated. It could be manipulated, though. You're right. People could be taken advantage of in this type of situation. I think, you bring up a good point too. Maybe it's too polished that it's like it's I don't know. I almost look at this
as really
like
depending how they do the money part. Like if they just like supply, like, hey, here's like materials, do your thing, and we like want to push you a little bit in a direction, then it's fine. But if it's like we kind of want to lead you directly in this direction because like I approve of that, but not on. It's weird.
Yeah, well, and I think one thing I think that's interesting about it is if you go to like a historical kind of concept of it, when you had artists back in the Renaissance era and back in like the Neo-Gothic era, is that they had like patrons. They had a rich guy that had to pay for everything for them, so they couldn't even afford their own equipment. So that's almost what this reminds me, right? Yeah. Is that they're like willing to be a patron of all these like young artists, and I don't know. I could see how it could be manipulated. I think you have a good point with that. Like I could see.
I don't even mean it that bad. I'm just like, I'm not sure how they want to do that because like, that's just my first couple thoughts that came up.
But it is interesting, right? Like you're seeing kind of I hate to say this, but you're seeing kind of the death of art schools for sure. I don't think a lot of people view, so with that happening, the new art school is maybe the co-working space, maybe the cafe, maybe the networking events, but it's like, what happens when we lose the art schools, right? Like it's like, do we go back to the old art ways of like, do you have apprentices and do you have patrons and do we have like the schools that are like, could I have the Sean Craig design collective of 5 or 6 designers in my little studio, and that's how I run a school. So I don't know. It's just really interesting that the idea of a company somehow finding a financial way to support young artists and make that their business. I mean, it's such a weird concept, but sometimes it feels like the weirdest concepts in business end up working 10 years from now. Yeah. So
I mean, either way, even if it would be like more manipulative and they want it a certain way, a person goes in there and learns something. So no matter what it is and how it's run, it's like for the person who's walking in and get approved for this program, or if everybody's approved, everybody will learn something, and it's a good thing in the end, So either way, like if you work for corporate America, you learn something, even in the creative field, and even if it's cookie cutter, you will learn stuff, and that is the key, I guess, for everything. So as long as you learn, it's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Make some money.
Yeah, well, exactly. Like, hopefully, they're getting at least some exposure or something out of this. I would hope, but yeah, and I just love it being built in bad parts of town. I grew up kind of when I was really young. I was in a bad part of town, and if I still lived there, I have no idea if I would be even where I am now. Would there have been an art class in high school with an Apple computer? Would there have been Photoshop? I mean, when you're kind of in these poor areas, you don't even get introduced to this type of stuff. So to have that kind of access is cool. cool. So yeah, hopefully it happens more. I don't know. It's a very new news story, and I just thought like it's just a very interesting thing that I would like to see happen more. I think that's like with the death of art schools and with this kind of the co-working spaces being okay, but they're not really a good place for new people, more established people. I think there's a vacuum right now of where do these people go? Where do these people go to become better?
I don't think so. I'm a little bit different there because I love social media on some ways, in some ways, I mean, and there's like YouTube, and you talked about having Patreons and like, hey, who's sponsoring this? So if you're like, let's say you like art and you show your passion, people will see that passion and they want to support that, and that's maybe a follower, like, or subscribe, or maybe a donation as a Patreon, or maybe like a whatever it is, and that's how like nowadays everything is getting funded by the people. And art school was back in the day, you funded with your money, you sign up for it, you pay for it, so you basically pay for yourself, and so it's a more expensive way. And now it's more like, oh, everybody can become it as long as you have the passion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you put the work in.
But there is one little aspect, and I think, and you could argue against this too, is that so with like YouTube and all these things, like you can find the information, you can look at work that's great, and you can be inspired really, I think, easier than ever before, obviously. But I think the thing that is missing though is the mentorship in a way. Like if I follow really big artists on YouTube, they're not going to read my comment most times, and if they do, they're just going to say thank you. They're not going to like give me a lesson. So that's the thing that's kind of missing. I think there is still something, as someone that did go to art school, I do agree. Like, I hate to see people get in debt over that because it is arguable, that value, but there is still value that I don't think you can get just by looking through YouTube videos, looking through stuff, because because even then you're just looking at stuff that's already been done. That doesn't help you create things that haven't been created yet.
So that brings me, like, it will be a good segue. So I kind of want to end it after that, but
so let's segue this.
Not yet. So first off, like, keeping on to that is like, if you see something and you like the style and you learn to cover it, it becomes part of your style. Obviously, you cannot achieve the same quality, and the more you pursue and cover, the better you get. But you will pick and choose what you like. So you will not pick one artist, you will pick 2, 3, and you, out of those 4 or 5 artists, whatever it is, you become your own, and everybody had a little bit influence over it and will form you, and you will become whatever you are. But if you go to school, it's kind of the same thing, like you get shaped by the school, but when as a teacher, like actually being successful, because like, the people who are successful are doing it, and if you're not successful, you're teaching it. you see what I mean? So it's like a weird conundrum.
So I'll say one more thing before the segue, before we take a left turn, is the one thing that is missing is accountability and challenging your ideas. Those two things are missing, right? Like, I'm not like, then there's no one to say, hey, Fitz, why didn't you create that painting this week? You said you would. Why didn't you? And you also don't have someone that's like, Fitz, all you do is these types of videos you see all the time. How about you try something new? You don't get that on social media. They'll just let you go down your rails and you'll just become this type of person. And I think it's important. I think like even our conversations where we've shown each other stuff and we've challenged it, that is so important. That interaction is more important than us looking on YouTube. I think that's where the value is. So I don't know. I hope stuff like this happens where somehow we can find ways to have mentors be in public. Like even people like me, where I wouldn't even consider myself a master or anything. But yeah, how do you get people like me to go to a space to mentor young people? Because there really isn't that space right now, unless I go to a college or something. Which So, but yeah. Anyway, so let's segue on. I think. Now I completely forgot my segue, but copycats. Yeah, so let's talk about that, because like from whatever you learn, you become your own thing. And I got DM'd this morning by Zach, and he's a fan of my other podcast, and he's like kind of like hanging around and just what is that podcast? Real quick, hold on, let's shout that podcast.
Create before consume. Check out the merch. Actually, we need our own cups. We have to get on that cup game, because I have like a good phrase. I've worked on that a little bit. I've
got to hook up. We got to get some art. I got to hook up. We'll get this done.
Yeah, but anyway. So basically, he asked me, "Hey, I saw this cool product. I maybe can share my screen. That's maybe a good way to actually showcasing what we're talking about and
Let's do it.
share. Do this one and boop, and like share." So now you should see. So this is what he sent to me, and I'm like, "What the hell is this even?" You know, like from the design standpoint, you can roast.
I'm very confused.
Yeah, same here. I'm like, what I'm looking at, and he's like talking about a hat and a brim and like bend, and then I'm like, wait a minute. Oh, you mean something to bend your brim off the hat, you know? And that's exactly. So apparently that person sells a lot of hats, you know, and that's one of his like side hustles. By the way, quite juicy. But this is like a typical, yeah.
What do you mean by quite juicy? Hold on. For the
$130 for a hat? God.
Oh, expensive.
That's quite juicy.
Okay,
That's
I love that.
juicy.
I love that. I'm using that. That's quite juicy, that price.
Yeah, I'm like, I never wore a hat that's more than like 30, maybe $40. But I'm not a, top hat guy with like $500 on it, you know?
Yeah, good thing.
Good thing, you know? But yeah, basically, so it's like one of his products that he sells besides hats, and I think it makes a lot of sense to him. Obviously, questionable picture and missing pictures, you know, if you would have like more. So actually, what was it? He sent me like a couple of things. Give me 1 second. Where I'm like, oh, this is what it does. So he sent me like some TikToks. And
we'll need that because this isn't telling us anything.
Yeah, so I just pull it over. Let's go into the DMs, you know. So he sent me like, oh, this is a screenshot of a TikTok. Don't send screenshots. Share the TikTok. This is what it does. You see, it's a 3D print and it bends the hat. Makes a lot of sense. It's a cool product. It's a fun thing because like I don't like those flat hats, you know, like sometimes you get them as a gift and you rather have the baseball hat, you know, and this is make sure that you can bend them in a professional way so that the shape's kind of perfect. But in the end, you know, you bend them manually and it's probably turning out a little bit differently, but it's a creative way to make money selling a 3D print that bends hats, you know, and I myself have a product that I'm selling. So if I look at that and I'm just like, oh boy, somebody else sees something that they want, but they don't want to pay for it or don't have the time or it takes too long, you know, and there's like, hey, how much would it cost if you print me that, you know? And I'm like, I could check if somebody already uploaded it for free on Thingiverse or somewhere else, or I redesign the whole thing, you know, and then it takes me like 1 to 8 hours. I told him because it's rather simple, but still you kind of have to measure and you kind of have to test a couple things, you know, how would it turn out and think about it and then you can print it, and because that is like a hat is like this long, you know, like the brim is like that long, then you have to print it in that height, and that height takes like 10 to 20 hours depending on how much infill you have, and then is it actually worth to do it, or should you just spend the money and buy it? So a lot of people who are thinking about like DMing your buddy to just like steal an idea and like print it, you know, or then make him resell it for himself, you know, so it's worth it for him. It's probably better to just buy the product, you know? And then I was like kind of curious, why did he not buy the product? Then I looked on the page, checked it out, and it's 1 to 2 weeks delivery time just to make it, not sending it over. And I'm like, oh, that's why he's scamming me. So fast shipping is kind of important.
Yeah. I mean,
that was a lot. Sorry.
No. It's just I'm still caught up on why we need something to bend the brims of our hats. Like we're really, I guess maybe if this is a company, and you had to do lots of bending quickly, like you were like, you know, we have to bend 100 bills on hats this hour. Yeah. I could see that.
So there's apparently a whole, you know, and people are selling them on Etsy, you know, like $34 for a 3D print, you know. It's a rather easy shape, you know, and you kind of can see it's a 3D print. And I'm like, you know.
It is, yeah.
So I'm like, at what point is it okay for me to steal the idea? Because like when I search for hat brim bender, that's basically what it is. There's a bunch of things coming up. I'm like, did that person just stole the idea because he has a 3D printer? And at what point is it for me okay to modify any of those ideas and to make it my own, because I could redesign it, improve it. And that is like kind of a conundrum, because like I myself have a unique product that nobody really has right now. And I'm improving it because I don't want it to have it easily stolen or redesigned. So I'm at what point is it okay? And yeah, it's a weird world.
Yeah, it is a weird world. I mean, okay, so let's just assume, we'll just assume we need to bend bills in our caps, and to do so we need tools now because humans have de-evolved and can't bend their own bills in their own caps. So we're just going to assume that. But also, like, God, I just can't help but think when we're like older and we're like going to that garage sale that there's just going to be a table of all these plastic knickknacks, and we're going to be like, what the hell are any of these things for? And it's like, well, that's our bill bender. That thing's if you want to like do 2 clothes hangers on one. That thing's if a door doesn't close right. It's just going to be all these weird knickknacks that like once these things are printed, they're going to be junk. Because like if you handed me a bill like bender, I wouldn't know what the hell that is. I'd be like, this thing's junk. I'm going to throw this in the trash. Like, it's just interesting because I just think of like all this crap that's being made. And I shouldn't say crap, but there's a lot of stuff being made that's just like, literally, like we need something to help us bend bills on caps. Like that's not even.
So there's another aspect to it, because like, let's say I'm printing that thing for 20 hours or 5-6 hours, depending how long it is, it could fail. And then whatever is printed already is trash.
Yeah, so it's a very unsustainable thing. Even past your time being wasted, it's just you're wasting materials, and it's just unsustainable.
It's kind of bad for the environment and all those things. But you can 3D print plastic and wood, and that's how I do. I make a 3D design, then I make a prototype with plastic, and if I like it, I make a resin one. And with the resin, it's more it's easier to sustain and makes less trash, and it's better quality, it looks better, and all those things. So that's why I'm like, I don't like the plastic, and people are just uploading like plastic crap to Amazon. So that by itself is like a whole tangent we can go off, because I think it's good for the manufacturing. So we're getting into that age where it's like Star Trek. I need a cup, I print a cup,
which I think that in the long run is sustainable. I think if we got rid of
it's already metal 3D printers and all sorts of things. So you can even print organic materials. So there's people like printing hearts that are just like organic, but they don't do anything because it's not muscles. But it's cool.
Yeah, and I just want to make clear that I'm not poo-pooing 3D printing. I think it is cool.
So good.
It's
good, some bads.
Yeah. But I think, so to get to your kind of first point of this is, is it wrong that if you designed one and you designed it better? I would take kind of like, from a creative law standpoint, you can't really copyright a theory or an idea. You can only really copyright a product, like an actual. So the idea of something that bends the bill of a cap, like the idea of it, is really open game, right? I mean, like, just like most things either you or I have made, it's probably been made before. It's not like we've ever created anything technology-wise that's never been created. Even the things that you make, you're not the first person to design stands for things. So,
I am. Well, if you Google it, you will not find it. That's the problem. So that's why I'm like, oh. No,
well, maybe. So
that's why I'm not posting.
Well, I'm sure, and I won't even say what it is out loud. But like, I think it's like they're your exact type of stand, probably not. But I think like the idea of stands for things. I think I don't know. Because I've gone into creative studios and I've seen people display stuff. And so anyway, without getting too much into your product, I think like it's not bad that like if you were to take the concept of bending the bill of a hat, now if you were to like copycat as close as you can to something that's already made. I mean, not only does it not do that guy any good that you could be supporting him, I think it's you as a creative, it hurts you, right? Because you're not going to get into the hat brim bending game. It's not in your world. So it's like this guy's literally asking you, can you please pull the e-brake on your desires? just so I can get this thing quicker than 2 weeks, which is just crazy. It would be like
what would make sense for me if I would sell it on the site. What apparently they sell for $30. Obviously there's not many sales. If I look at the ratings here, like 32, that's a low amount, especially for Amazon. 5. Obviously that's just reviews, but in the end, like they're maybe happy if they sell like, I don't know, 50 a year, 100 a year, or even more. I don't know. Like, it's not really that needed, but it's like, it's a weird fashion thing. So it could be popping. I don't know. I'm not in the scene,
Well, it's really interesting. I mean, even just the trends of stuff is so interesting. Like, it may not be that cool now, but who knows, in a year, maybe all the kids on TikTok are bending their bills of their hats on TikToks, and then it just blows up. And it's very odd. I think it's like, because it's like, in the creative world now, it's like we're all putting out these nets and we just like hope fish come into them eventually. And that may be what this is. This may be just like, and clearly this one friend of yours is like psyched about it. So he's,
he would buy it if it would come faster and would be cheaper, I think there is like $10 would be good for it, $10, 2 days delivery. I would buy it. Why not?
So is this guy, cause I'm just interested in him as like a user. Is he like is he just like a hat enthusiast, or is he like sell hats, or he's just an enthusiast? He just has lots of hats, and
and he would like to have like his like hat that is like straight bent, make him fruity.
make them fruity. I think, So obviously it makes no sense. It really just shows like, you get this all the time in the graphic design world. I get people that are like, hey, I need a business card, or hey, I need a logo. And then, and I have to be very careful of like telling them like, hey, it'll cost X, Y, and Z, because I've done it before where I'm like, oh, they just know that it's going to cost this much money. Just like if you asked your friend that builds fences to, hey man, can you build me a fence? You wouldn't be like, yeah, you're going to do that for free, right? Like,
but they expecting the discount, just the labor, or like just the material, or it's like, I maybe bring you a case of beer or something, and you're like, support your friends, that's like, you should pay extra technically, but
if it was like, obviously, and maybe he's just ignorant to 3D printing, but like,
that's basically it. He's a good guy, don't get me wrong. It's just like and I hear like that so often. It's like one of the things, like if you have a 3D printer, you post once in a while, you get like random DMs, hey, can you print me this? Can I get a GoPro mount? Can I have this? And I'm like, yes, I guess.
Yeah.
But if I have to design it, nah. Yeah.
Well, it's, I just
unless I can sell it. Yeah. Talk about it.
I just had a weird idea. I mean, I think I've heard of this before. It's probably in some cities. If anyone out there knows about this, feel free to comment or send us a message about this. But I feel like, so to take kind of the beginning of this episode where we talked about this creative bank, right? Like, well, something like that seems like it could be useful for the 3D printing world, right? Like you go in like any other store and you're like, hey man, I need a bill curve thing. And maybe they have one, and I don't know. Like, I just feel like for you, like, it's like someone to ask you to 3D print all this stuff is unrealistic because you're one guy and you have to cover your ass somehow. Where if like you had this like business that was just built around 3D printing and like offering the community 3D printed stuff. I mean, I'm almost surprised that hasn't already happened. To be honest, I'm almost surprised
like
bigger already.
Like, you can basically go on Thingiverse, find some designs that are able to just like download, Some people want to have a donation. Some people don't really want them sold commercially, but you can just make them and print them, as long as you don't sell them. And you can send that to a company and they will print it for you, like 1,000, 10,000, and you just pay, small amount. So I could manufacture my thing too, but I'm like, it's a weird thing. I hate the idea of like losing like the thing that I have, but I need to promote it. So if I promote it, I will attract exactly the people who see it and will send it to somebody else they know to just get it for cheaper or free. What will not happen, but it will inspire the guy with the printer to redesign it and make it themselves, So it's a weird conundrum for me.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's been times and times again in my career too that I've learned don't worry about the copycats, because you're focusing on being better and better and better, where the copycats just focusing on copying. So you'll always be one step ahead is what I've learned. People that have tried to copy my style, like I watch them copy it, but I'm always like, yeah, now try to follow it up, because you don't know what the next chapter is. And so I think, so with this, it really, the person that it does the most harm to isn't even the other guy that makes these bills for a living. It does harm to you. I mean, it does harm to the guy that spends 20-25 hours trying to get this thing to be correct. And it wastes your time. It just wastes your time for a gift.
So here's the thing, like the weirdest things are like, sometimes pay off, and like, let's say I design this thing and I build a catalog of files that I can print on commando and have on my store. And let's say I get an order, I sell it. I only have to sell like 10 or 15, and it was worth my time, kind of, sort of, If I sell more, it's better. And the more things I have listed, the more views I will get, because I will pop up in the search. So the more listings you have, the more sales you will get, because they will click on the listings, you will be discovered. On Spotify, it's like kind of a random fun fact, but the more songs you post on Spotify, the bigger and more popular you will become, because you will build a catalog that will be discovered.
So you're saying quantity over quality. That's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, basically.
That's your argument.
Yeah, so it's like, it would be better for me to just basically copy it or modify it and put it up there and sell maybe just like 1, maybe 10, maybe 20, or maybe 100. And whatever it is, if that's happening, that's fine. But more products, the better discoverable,
I think we're about to disagree on this. I feel like we're about to disagree on this, because I see, as like coming from a brand point of view,
I get that completely.
Is being focused, I feel like is so much more important than being sharper image and being like, oh look, we have 1,000 different knickknacks. That's like, then I'm like, I would like, if like I want to get a hat, brim bender, and I go to your store and it's like a frickin', it looks like one of those, it just looks like one of those, like, a Dollar Tree stores or something. It's just all these knickknacks, all these things. I'm gonna be like, okay. Like, he seems like he does 3D printing, but if there's like one company that's like lid benders, and it's like all these, and it only does it and has all these videos of people bending their hats, and it's all like branded, I'm gonna say that they're the master, where you're the jack of all
100%.
trades.
And that's like one of the things where I'm like, okay, if I want to be in this market with all those copycats, the only thing I can do to be one step ahead, better quality, and get a brand. And that's where I'm like, oh, Sean, I kind of need your help with the brand.
Well, and one thing, like, that's
clearly everything is like named Fitz, and my YouTube channel, my other things. I'm like, I can't run it like that. It's not, it's a weird brand.
Yeah, and I struggle a little bit with the same thing. I mean, like, Sean Craig Creative is a hard thing to sell lots of stuff out of. It's an easy thing to sell myself, but it's a hard thing to like Sean Craig Creative products. So the thing that I've kind of started to adopt, and I haven't really done successfully yet, is just the idea of like, if you do want to do all these things and start all these companies, it's actually very cheap to start a company. And the hardest part is the branding. So me being a person that can brand, I feel like, oh, well, I got that handled. But I think so in this case, I would just start that as a separate company. I'd have your 3D printing as your company. I'd have that thing as that company. I'd have that thing as that company. Because who cares if it's the same owner that owns all of it? Fine, then own 100 companies, own 100 URLs. Granted, that can get expensive as you ramp up, but I mean, like, then you have all these nets that are like, I'm the master of bending bills. I'm the master of stands for things. I'm the master of this knickknack and that knickknack. And I feel like it's just more nets then. I would almost say that. I mean, we live in a time where it's cheaper now than ever before to actually start a business. I mean, like, even
it's like the cost of a business is like kind of extreme in my opinion. Like, first off, if you want to do it right, what you're supposed to, you have to pay your taxes, you have to get an LLC maybe to protect yourself, and maybe get like all sorts of things, like getting a website, getting your URL. It's like, it costs some money. Like, all the prices went up, by the way, because of the whole inflation thing. Like my Rachel with saturatedlife.com, that got more expensive.
What did about it? What went up about that?
It's nearly tripled or doubled, I think, for the website. The URL name.
Yeah, you have to watch that stuff. And you can always negotiate that sometimes, like the hosting and stuff. But yeah.
It costs money.
But you're right. It does cost money. And I think like, the way I'd almost view all these things too is it just allows you to do experiments. And so, yeah, after a year, it's not making money and your heart's not in it, you can just end the company. That's the cool thing about 3D printing is like you're like in a place where you don't have to have thousands of something in a warehouse now. Like, so if you have to shut up a company, then just shut off the company. It's not a big deal. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, to get back to your topic though, of like, is it cool to ask like other creatives to do stuff and to undermine other creatives? Probably not. It sounds like this guy didn't. It seems like he just thought like you would just pop this out.
You would not think about that, You would not think about that. If you're like, you see something and somebody can do it, you're like, oh, I want to have a video like this, can you make me a video like that? Then your intention is not to like copy and paste the whole thing,
And my
you
thing,
don't understand like how close you want to have it,
Yeah, I mean, and the only time I would undercut something that's already out there is to truly give you the money, right? So like, it wouldn't be to get it cheaper or get it quicker. It'd be like, I can buy this thing for $30 and get it in 2 weeks. How about I give you 2 weeks and I'll give you $30? Like, that's an okay argument because, like, yeah, support your tribe. I mean, I can't tell you how many. I don't have a lot in my world anymore, but like the friends that will literally ask their creative friends for discounts and can you get it done super quick and can you bend over backwards? And it's like, well, you're not really helping your creative friend then. Like, that's you like assuming that you deserve all these things. Like, helping a creative friend, is just paying them fair and like helping their business. I mean, that argument I can see is like, do I want to pay Joe Schmo online or do I want to help, Fitz get better in life? I want to help Fitz get better in life. So it's like, that's an okay argument, I think. But in this case, I think it just sounds like, yeah, the guy was kind of, he just thought, this is going to take you an hour or two to just knock out.
Yeah.
Which in that case, I could
Didn't
see
think
the
about
argument.
it, just the amp, yeah. So, but that is also like a really interesting thing because like times are weird right now. China's apparently collapsing, and there's a lot of manufacturing in China. But so that's at least going through the news because of the whole real estate market, whatever scheme they pulled there. I don't know if you
which one. There's like 5, but yeah.
yeah. I'm just like, there's a lot of things going wrong there. So I'm like, It seems like there's more going on, but in the end we get a lot of manufacturing from them, and like now it's like we the people are become the manufacturers with like 3D printing and like, let's say, resin pouring, making molds, and I'm like, it will be a very weird future. Everything is like very like the people do it,
which I think is great. I mean, I hope that happens. I mean,
it's already happening.
Yeah, and I hope it happens like even more than it is. I mean, so to kind of go back to this has never been possible. Sorry, getting a client call. Gotta not get that. Anyway,
Sean, come on.
Sorry, my camera also backs up as a client call thing, so I actually get client calls on my webcam. But sorry, I lost my complete train of thought. So it brings me back to like, the Great Depression era where like people grew their own vegetables in their own garden. There wasn't superstores. There wasn't these huge factories. There wasn't these huge farms that were destroying the planet. You had these like, you had these communities, and I'm not sure if this is the same way in Germany. Maybe it's still there. I feel like in Europe, they still kind of get this idea of having these gardens in these communities. And rather than let's just screw up the world with like huge farming, like why don't we just have a garden down the street that we all pitch in and help on? I love that. I would love to see that get better just all in its own, but then manufacturing becoming that. Like, that would be so cool to like take down these huge factories that are polluting the water and polluting the air and bring it all local. I would love that. Like, if we all had like little maker spaces in our communities that we could go to where you have a Fitz who's just like, yeah, let me help you out. You need a bike tire? Got that. You need that clip? Got that. Your door broke? Got that. And it would be really cool in that way. And then if we could just somehow, just from a product design standpoint, it would be cool for us then to also think about how do we throw this crap away? We're going to create all this new 3D printed stuff. So how do we somehow make sure that doesn't just end up in landfills? We need to make sure, can we reuse whatever we can?
It is a really weird cycle right there because you described something and I was like, this would be kind of, let's say if everybody is doing everything themselves, and you don't need a big company, then you would not need brands, or branding because like, oh, it's just a one guy who's doing good stuff. But the goal of a brand is like to be the best thing to go to. Like it's the best person in your community to go to for that thing. So you kind of you want to create like you're being the best and the biggest thing, you know, to be the safest. But if everybody is equally doing the same thing, then it's like, you know, it's a weird thing for branding, you know.
It is a weird
because
thing.
you wouldn't need branding if everybody does it, you know. So it's an interesting concept. I'm like, I don't want to go too deep into that, but I'm like, oh yeah, we're leaving a companies because like we trust them and they're the biggest and the best, but that creates a problem of like trash pollution and all the other stuff.
Yeah, well, you do. You bring up a good point. I mean, we live in a time of everyone trying to be the one-stop shop, and they're trying to be the leader. And you're right. Yeah, I think there'll still be branding. Branding's interesting and superfluous. It's like saying that like icons will disappear someday. Like, no, I think they'll always appear somewhere. But like, I think, you bring up a good point though. I think like it definitely would change branding. I think, which you're already seeing now. Like the idea of self-branding, I think in the last 10 years has just blown up, where everyone, even kids, understand self-branding more than they ever did before. So branding itself is in this weird flux. People are being smarter to brands. Like brands, I think, used to be able to surprise and excite people a lot easier, where people are now just so used to it that brands, I think, are still important, but they have much less impact than they did in the past. And so, yeah, maybe that is the next step, right? We take down these huge brands slowly, and they don't, you know, but there's still probably brands, like even that makerspace. Let's say Fitz's 3D printing shop down the street still needs a brand, and it's, you know, and maybe it's Walmart still. Maybe you have the Walmart branding, but like, you know, I think, you know, it's interesting though. You bring up a really good point that it really destabilizes branding.
In this fictional world where there's no big companies and everybody is doing it themselves, then, you know, it's a weird thing. But if it's like the world we live in right now with their communities, you go to the one person in the community who's the best. And that's basically the brand, I would say, in the most simple form, you know? Yeah. That's why things get so big. But now we have the internet and there's not one person. It's like a mega company, you know? That's how I see it right now. I'm like, this is an interesting way of viewing it. Just came up to my, you know?
Yeah, no, I like it. I do like it. I mean, it's, because it's interesting.
It kind of makes sense in a weird way.
Yeah, and I almost wonder if like companies then brand their plans or their products. So you still go into like that makerspace, and I'm going looking at each shelf, and it's still branded on each shelf, right? Like this clip, has like this logo, and that thing has this logo, and so so it's like maybe the companies, you know, Target just essentially offers the 3D printing maps and stuff, and that's all they offer, but they're still offering it. So like you as like a 3D printer have to buy that catalog maybe, or pay for that subscription, which that's an interesting thought too, is like, what if everything becomes a subscription type of service, right? Like, so
don't say it, it's already so bad.
Yeah,
like, you need a subscription for everything, and I'm like, I'm
almost surprised that hasn't already happened. I mean, like, you can be members of like Target or Walmart or Chipotle or whatever, but I mean, I could see that being like the next eventual thing, is like pay our subscription fee every month to get access to these 3D maps and these things that are
fresh 3D designs and whatever, and just print the cool stuff that the best designers did. We could make a platform like this if you want to collab on that. It's a good idea. You just build a community, hire a bunch of like top designers, make a nice website, and just like, hey, you can be part of this, and we're selling subscriptions. Want to do that, Sean? I'm game.
Well, there you go. You heard it first. But yeah, I mean, that'd be kind of cool though. I mean, like, even if you did like a subscription box service, like that's pretty big still, where like, you just got like 10 cool 3D artists every month to like print 10 random 3D stuff, and you get it sent to you for free, or not for free, but like you get sent it for like, you know, let's say $30 to $40 a month. You get sent all this random kind of 3D stuff, and some of it's goofy, some of it's neat, some of it like does random weird stuff. I mean, that'd be kind of cool. I mean, I would be interested to see like, what would I get sent? What would be some of the random 3D knickknacks? Like, like a cap bill bender. I mean, that's just such a weird, interesting thing.
It's a very interesting thing in a very interesting world right now. So what do you think about like when you buy your first 3D printer, when you become part of the future?
You know, I don't know. I don't really get that excited about it. I don't think, like, there's things like in the creative world that like I get excited about a lot of dang things. Like I have to be careful, But there's certain things like 3D printing that just doesn't get my heart beating at all. I don't know. I don't have that like physical 3D design excitement. So it's not really been a thing that I've thought that I couldn't do it or that's unaffordable. It's a little pricey, but I could
it's not.
find
it's
that money.
$200, you get a printer, and
yeah, so it's not that pricey. I mean, but I just don't really have the desire, and I just feel like so that's something I'm just like, if you don't love it, then give it to someone else, so
no, I kind of, so here's my thought about that. So it just came up to my mind, that question, so that's why I asked it. But
yeah, that's how those work.
3 years ago or so, I think 3 years or so ago, my buddy was like selling 3D prints, like custom niches, and I'm like, I kind of should get onto this 3D printing game too, just to like print parts that I break at my house, and instead of buying like a door handle, I 3D print a door handle and save $10. Over the time, it will be cheaper to own a 3D printer than buy all the stuff. So my dishwasher broke, and I printed a part and put it in my dishwasher, and the replacement part, $50. I'm like, I don't buy the whole drawer holder for that you slide in and out from a dishwasher. I printed the wheel and done, So I was like seeing it more as like a paper printer, like when you print like documents. I'm like, every house needs a 3D printer where you print your own things, And I think it's like one of those weird skills that you kind of, if you have them, it's better for the sake of money, but also kind of bad for time. But I don't know. So that's how I saw it, and that got me into it.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. It makes me almost think of like if you were like an old farmer or something back in the 1800s, right? And the door broke, you'd have to make a new door. It's not like you had a door guy. You had to like make the hinge, or like, you'd have to go and, turn on the furnace and actually bend metal and make a new door hinge and stuff. So it's like interesting. It's like this weird, like you're becoming that old type of farmer ranch man, but like in the future. It's really weird. Like,
I think like that type of person will always persevere, like you got to make some stuff, and some things you got to buy.
Yeah, it's just interesting. Yeah, definitely democratizes, just like everything right now is being democratized. It feels like it definitely democratizes that process of even home maintenance and things like that. Because I think you could make the argument that in a future world we should all have 3D printers. We should all.
That's how I saw it, and I'm like, I need that so that I at least understand it. And right now it's like complicated, or it was complicated. Now it's becoming easier. And the catalog on the internet from free stuff that you can just download and print is tremendous. Like,
I know,
you imagine that somebody uploaded it for free.
Yeah, I know. And that's everything right now. You want cool free photos? They're out there. Free videos? They're out there. Free fonts? They're out there. So why not? Why not have 3D printed stuff that you can just get? It's just, I'm not like resistant to 3D printing. I definitely think it's a good thing. I just think if we want to be better than the big companies, we just need to make sure that we don't become the same thing as the companies that are destroying the planet. I think we have to we have to try to not waste as much as we can. I think as long as people keep trying to move towards sustainability with this, I'm game. As long as people don't lose respect for the people that do design these things, I'm game. I think overall 3D printing is a great thing, though. I think it's going to lead to some good stuff. And sustainability, even like things like old cars where you can't find the parts anymore. Now you can keep those old cars running through 3D printing. In terms of someone asking you to do something for free and it taking a ton of time, I think you just lead them on like, no, there's other stuff out there. If you can't wait 2 weeks, get someone else, because I feel like it's just about focus. As a creative, I'm running into this all the time too. Not really all the time anymore, but I did for a while, where it was just like, people almost think they're doing favors by having you do stuff for free or cheap. They almost feel like we just want to be busy as creatives, and I feel like you can't blame them in a way, like, right? Like if you had a lawyer friend and you had a law problem, you'd be like, oh, I need your advice on this, and you would expect them not to charge you $100 for that piece of advice. So I think people just still think that about the creative world. So it's really about Yeah, it's just really about us standing up and being like, no, I don't really feel that. And also, it's not really, I would rather you support this other creative that came up with this. So I think, I would say no to that.
I basically explained it to him. I'm like, it will take me too long. It's probably not worth my time. And I will feel like kind of bad stealing the idea. But now I'm like, okay, I should build that catalog, so that it's maybe 20, 30 sales. And I'm like, okay, then it was worth my time over the long term. But do I really want to do it? Because I have like so many ideas in my head and so many things to do. I'm paralyzed by too many things. I don't need another thing on there.
Exactly. And I would say, your time is better spent on your dreams. I've had to explain this a couple times in the last year that, like, while I love your side hustle and while I believe in you, my side hustle isn't less important. And that's an important thing to think of as a people pleaser like me. I have a hard time saying that like, hey, like, I love you. I love your side gig, but my side gig is just more important to me. So like for you, your thing, like that time, that 20 hours it would take to make that thing, you could spend those 20 hours improving your stuff, marketing your stuff, getting your stuff ready. And that's important. So it's like, if you had all this free time and you were just sitting there waiting for things to do, sure. And sometimes that happens. Like sometimes people get lucky and I'm just desperate to do anything. There's like, every 5 years, there's about a 2-week period where I'm actually open. And so if you land in that 2-week period, I'll be like, okay, sure. Why not? But like, a lot of the time though, it's like, no, man, like I have my own side gig and it's not even succeeded yet. So we need to get that to succeed first. So so for you, I would just want you to focus on your 3D printed stuff and just how do you make it better? How do you make it better? Like, every day spending 2 hours on it or 1 hour on it even, and just being like, how can we get this to be better? Like have your fake board meeting with the rest of your, Fitz and being like,
there's enough personalities in this room right now.
Right. Have the mirror, have the whole Gollum thing where you're yelling at each other in the mirror about like,
we need more sales.
Exactly. I think because there's so much you can do. I mean, even your brain, if you sat there for an hour with a sketchbook and was like, how do I sell these stands better? I'm sure you could fill up 2 pages to the brim of just all the different stuff you could do. So and I mean, like, do that. Yeah. Screw making stuff that doesn't help you. It's like, do that.
Not a fun fact. So I did hook up people with like easy things that were already pre-made on the internet. People kind of want stuff, and then when it's actually crunch time, they don't want it. So it was not even crunch time for them in that regard, but they're like, hey, Fitz, I need a GoPro mount. Can you 3D print me one? I'm like, oh, it's already on there. I can 3D print it for free, It just cost me the materials, and it's like maybe 10 cents, whatever, I print that damn thing. Oh, yeah, I don't really want to come pick it up. And I'm like, cool. So you just kind of sort of want something, you DM'd somebody to kind of sort of get it, but that kind of sort of just tells you how involved they are. If they really want it, they're like, I get myself 3D printer, I got to figure this out and I make it, there's like a weird, like, people just want stuff kind of sort of sometimes. And there's not a lot of people who are like, I want that and I make it happen no matter what. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and that's just where people start to just disrespect people. They start to lose sight that you're a person, you're human, and that they just think you're a machine in that time, in that period. And
NPC.
You're just an NPC. That's all you are. But I mean, I think. Don't waste your friend's time. Everyone out there, I mean, like, seriously, even if they're not a creative, try to be empathetic when you're going into the situation. Try to be like, hey, how do I help you? Right? Like, Fitz can help me with the 3D printing, but how do I help him with his 3D printing? Like, how do I, because that's the ultimate thing. Because if you're not in it to help your friends, then don't get them involved. Like, then just go have a beer with them. Why do I need to make Fitz work for his beer? Just bring him a beer then.
Hey, give me a beer.
Just bring him a beer, guys. Come on. Donate below to Fitz's beers. But I mean, I think so. I think it's interesting. We just have to be careful. I think humans have to be careful. Things are getting easier, but we can't like lose sight that like people have value. People do still have value.
I think there's is a big thing that we should talk about. It's called like a win-win situation. You have to think about how is this.
I've never heard of these win-wins. What's this?
Yeah, so like if Fitz and Sean makes a podcast and we both become successful, we both can spread our messages. That would be a win-win. It would be worth our time doing it. Instead
we'll
of
try
like,
that.
hey,
we'll
Fitz,
try that.
yeah, instead of like you being Sean and being like, hey Sean, I need a podcast. Can you make me a podcast for free? But if everybody has a win-win, it's worth the time, Gotta put some time in, think about how can I help my friend and help myself, so that everybody in my friend group can succeed, It's like building a community, winning together, because like alone we cannot build that home. We have to assemble the team, build the home together. Unless you want to have a shitty home.
Unless you want to have a shitty home. But I mean, like, I totally agree. I mean, like, you need to have a good tribe. If you have a good tribe, if everyone around you wants to see you succeed, you're going to succeed. I definitely take that approach. I've had some people be surprised when I'm like so complimentary and so empowering to them. They're just like, why are you being like this? Like, why do you care if I do well and stuff? It's because it's like, if you do well, I'll just do well. And I always used to make the joke that I'm just trying to get you all to have houses so I can sleep on all of your couches someday, so there could be truth to that. My life may fall apart someday and I may need all these creatives that I empowered to like help empower me again. So, I think. Yeah, build that good karma. Exactly. So I think that is important. There's been some people, young people, which is what surprises me. You'd think the young people get this more, but there's been young creatives that I've ran into this last year, in a couple different places in my life that I'm just like, I think you're grateful. I think you're nice, but I can tell that you actually aren't outside yourself, that you're like, literally, you just want yourself to succeed. And you don't really want to help others succeed. You don't want to help people under you succeed. You don't even want to see how you can help people above you succeed. And I've ran into it, and I've had to explain to people that like, if you are just by yourself and it's all about you getting better, and you doing good, then eventually it's you versus the world, and you have to get out of that. So it's like respect the creatives, empower the creatives, and they'll come back tenfold for you. That's why I make a big thing of, even if my friends do something, I pay them. Like I've had a couple projects where I've had friends be like, no, I'll just do it for free. And I'm like, no way. Like, you should get paid. I would be mad if someone else didn't pay you. So no, I'm going to pay you. You know,
Sean, you're a good guy there.
Yeah, poor guy too. Yeah.
Don't pay them that much, then maybe. But I don't know. I'm just kidding. Yeah. But I think like this should wrap up the episode. What would you say? You have any like closing thoughts about like maybe hitting the subscribe button or rating this podcast 5 stars? I don't know.
Yeah, well, and also, comment and message us, guys. We want to talk to the people. Come on, we want a guest, so we may start bringing in some guests here.
I'm working on that big time. Like, we have that. What is his name? So maybe we drop his name so I can guilt trip him into listen to this.
No, we don't have to put him in yet until he agrees. We don't need to.
Yeah, no, he agreed. He was like giving me like time frames. He's still on vacation and doing certain stuff. Like, everybody's traveling. I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah, everyone is traveling, just like you.
Yeah, it's Phil, the digital marketer and web designer.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
So that would be a good guest, but we're working on it. Let's see if Phil actually makes it. I was
about to say, you just put him on shout, so you just put him on blast now, so he'll have to now.
Gotta raise the heat a little bit, but
yeah. But yeah, like and subscribe to this podcast. Let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about, and it's a blast, man. I'm glad you're back in Florida, back in the seat, and eventually, oh my God, I'm getting another client call. Oh my God.
You're just like me.
I'm just on blast right now. But I think and I do want to announce that I think in late October, there may be an in-person version of this podcast where me and Fitz are sitting together somewhere.
That means we can have multiple cameras, things moving, and I would love that.
I know, so who
knows? Back down here, like Colorado's kind of like, you have a water drought and all that stuff. There's not even water up there. Come on, man. Move down
Well,
here.
there's water out here. Well, we're a headwater state, so we have all the water. We're the ones that could destroy California if we wanted to. Just shut off that water. It's all staying here. But yeah, no, we got to get you here too, man. I mean, it's a nice place. I mean, really, it's like you got to live that snowbird life. Like, what are you doing, brah? Like, we need to get up here, like right now in the summer where it's gruelingly hot. Like
the gator life.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. But I mean, just look how sweaty in Florida you look right now. I mean, you look so much crisper here in Colorado now in the summer. Just that cool breeze going through your hair, riding a horse through the mountains.
I need the heat. I need the heat. By the way, I like that you have a stein there to drink your coffee.
Yeah,
Especially after I was in Germany. I'm like, wait a minute, is that a German reference there?
I know. No, it's just a huge mug from one of my clay pottery clients. But yeah, no, we got it. This will be the next merch, so we're gonna announce that soon. I'm gonna get with you, Fitz. I got some things to show you.
Yeah, after the show, we're actually talking about merch, promoting, and all that stuff. So have a good one, guys.
Cool. See you guys. I love you. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.